Welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, and today I'll be talking about a month ahead spread. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. The best way to support the podcast right now is to listen daily, rate, review, and to follow or subscribe in your chosen podcast app. If you're loving the podcast and want to further support me, you can join my Patreon for behind-the-scenes access to upcoming topics, polls, monthly hangouts, asking your tarot questions, and get individual tarot readings and more. The link is in the show notes if you want to check out the Patreon. You can always go to my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot for all the latest information related to the podcast and to find images of the cards that I pull in each episode. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, I'd love to see you at my next Let's Talk Tarot meetup group event on April 6th at 11:15 a.m., where we're meeting at the Haunted Farmers Market in South Tacoma. You can RSVP for that in the show notes below. It'll be the meetup link. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of the year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on my upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. The link to sign up for that is in the show notes as well, or you can always go to sign up in the pop-up on my website. All right, we're in season 5 now. This is the second to last episode of the season. And in this season, I'm talking all about common tarot spreads. I'm going through 13 different tarot spreads, one per episode, and walking you through an example of what it looks like to do them. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you should go ahead and check those out. The first season, I introduced tarot through talking about oracle versus tarot cards, myths of tarot, how to find a deck, reading for yourself versus others, and much more. In seasons 2 and 3, I went through the major arcana and the 4 suits, one per episode. And in season 4, I talked all about tarot in pop culture and examined representations of tarot in video games, TV shows, movies, and more. So like I said, today in our main discussion, we're going to be talking all about a month ahead spread. So obviously the timing for this spread, you want to do it around the time that the beginning of the month is coming up. Obviously that's going to depend on what day the month begins. I'm doing this and putting this podcast out on the last day of the month, so we're looking ahead towards April 2025 for me. You can also obviously do it on the first day of the month or even like within the first couple of days. Some people also do like an annual, like a year ahead spread. I'm not going to get into that in our 13 episodes this time, but that's another way to kind of get a look at the whole year. So obviously you might know what you're going to do for April from the spread that you did at the beginning of the year. So for the spread details, I got this spread from Willow Tarot Shop. It's a 4-card spread. And this reading focuses on clarity in general and not a specific question necessarily, right? We're thinking about the whole month ahead and sort of getting clarity on what that's going to look like to begin to understand the month ahead better. And this reading can focus on different topics depending on the cards that are pulled. And for placement of the cards, you're just going to sort of go in a circle. The top card's going to be the first one. The second one will be on the right. The third will be on the bottom. And the fourth is on the left. So kind of like a diamond shape. And the 4 questions or sort of themes we're going to be looking at are the number 1 is the theme for the month. The second one is about potential new opportunities or growth. The third is potential challenges. And the fourth is possible advice or outcomes. So let's dive in and see what the cards have to say today. I'm going to go ahead and grab my deck. You can go ahead and grab yours and get to shuffling. And again, since we don't have a specific question necessarily for this month ahead, just think about, April, at least if you're doing this live with me right now, what can I look forward to in April? What's coming up? Universe, right? What's going on? What do I need to know? What do I need to hear? And all that kind of stuff. So I am going to pull from my Therapist Who Tarot deck by Drea Bloom and Rebecca Bloom. It is like a standard Rider-Waite deck. It's all watercolor images. But instead of having a tarot deck guidebook, it actually has sort of like therapy or reflection questions on the back of each card. So the backs are not the same. They sort of have the same like background image, but then they each have 3 questions. And again, there's no guidebook. So we're going to be kind of keeping it short and sweet today because we'll just have these kind of reflection questions, at least in my own spread. Obviously, for your spread, you can use whatever deck you like. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle a little bit. Oh, I saw one of my cards is the other way. Okay. And these are bigger cards, so they're a little harder for me to shuffle. They get like a little more square than some of the rectangular ones that I'm more used to. There's also a card in here that is extra. I'm trying to find it. That just has sort of like instructions for how to use the deck on it. Some decks do have extra cards. At my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group, or actually at the Witches and Brews meetup group, which is in Tacoma area. Well, there's one in Seattle and also one in Tacoma. I was at one of their events last week, and someone had a deck that had, so the normal kind of 78 tarot cards, and they also had a card that was like a yes or no card. So you can kind of, so some decks do have extra cards like that, which is kind of fun. Okay, so I'm going to start, I'm going to cut my deck in half. I'm going to put my cards face, well, actually, I'm going to put my cards face up because I don't want to see the questions yet. So the first one goes at the top. The second one goes on the right. Oh, there's my instruction card. The third one goes on the bottom, and the fourth goes on the left. Okay. So, looking at mine, and like I said, I'm looking at all 4 of them right now, facing up. You can do whatever you like. Generally, I like them face down, but because this deck doesn't have the same image on the back, I was going to sort of get like a preview as to what the cards were. So I didn't necessarily want to do that. So just looking at my spread right now, I have 2 major arcana cards and 2 other cards from 2 different suits. In this deck, they use spirals instead of pentacles or coins. Spirals are sort of historically, right before there were coins, there were still natural spirals in the world. They sort of have that against circular image. They have that earth energy, so that's kind of what that's about. And all of these cards are depicted in watercolor, so they're sort of abstract sometimes. They're sort of like it doesn't necessarily have like super clean lines. So as I look about my theme for the month, it talks about, so what I pulled was the card Judgment, which is the number 20 card in the major arcana. And in this deck, there is one word below like the title of each card, so it says Awakening. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the questions on the back of my card now. You can go ahead and pull out your tarot deck guidebook if you have it, or any other tarot reference books that you have to kind of check out what this card might be about. For me, this says Judgment Awakening. So what is limiting your growth? How are you keeping yourself small? And in what area of your life do you feel trapped? Very interesting. So I'm not going to do like a whole ton of reflection, I don't think right now on this, because something about a month ahead, right? Like you're not necessarily going to totally know what it's about until the month is over. So I would recommend, right, you could voice record yourself talking about it or sort of what cards you pulled. You could do a tarot journal where you write down your question or, the 4 themes that we're picking for each card and what cards you pulled. This is my second episode of the day and I'm already getting tongue-tied. That doesn't bode well for the next hour that I have going on. But anyway, okay, so yeah, Judgment Awakening. So yeah, I'd recommend taking a few notes on what you think this is about or what's coming to mind right now. I often think that like whatever comes to mind first is like what's true. Even if like you wouldn't have necessarily associated with that previously or anything like that. Sometimes that's just, I feel like, how the universe works. All right, so for my second card, which again is about potential opportunities or growth, I pulled the Magician, which is associated with the number one. It's technically the second card in the major arcana, but the Fool is considered like a zero card. In one of my decks, they call the Fool the Void, and I kind of like that because it makes a little bit more sense as to why it's zero. But the Magician is sort of like the first card after that one. And this one, the word associated with it is focused. So it sounds like I'm going to be focused in my new opportunities and growth. So when I look at the questions on the back of this card, it says, whom do you love and who loves you? How can you best focus on self-care this week? And how can you best protect your heart? Interesting. So not necessarily things that I would normally associate with the Magician, but I really like this deck. It really always makes me think differently about the cards. So I'm going to take a little time and like journal on like what I think these reflection cards are about. Again, for you, if you're using like a traditional tarot deck with a tarot deck guidebook or something, you can go ahead and pull that out. If you have any tarot reference books, pull those out. You can sometimes look across those to get different ideas about what the card might mean. And yeah, I would recommend that you, jot some notes down, since again, for a month ahead spread, you're getting a preview into what your month might look like, but it might not really make sense until you've actually gone through it. Okay, so for my third card, and again, for this one, we're thinking about potential challenges that are going to come up this month. And my card is reversed. So, sometimes reversals are about something that does feel challenging right now, or something that we're working through and almost on the other side of, or that we're sort of riding the line of, are we doing sort of the healthy thing, or are we sort of falling into old patterns or traps? So for this one, I pulled the Three of Wands reversed. And like I said, it is reversed. It's my only reversal card in here. So if I look at it upright, so Three of Wands is about preparation. So this says, right, the questions on the back are, what no longer makes you happy? On what are you focusing too much? And what should you be paying more attention to? So even with sort of the questions that come up for this card for me, and that are on the back of this, there is this element of, right, like transmuting, or like the changes happening, like something that no longer makes me happy, something that maybe I was focusing on and I'm doing it too much, and what should I be paying more attention to? And again, this deck, some decks don't lend very well to reversals. Either your tarot deck guidebook doesn't have any reversal descriptions, or sometimes the imagery on the cards, or like this one, right, with it only having questions on the back, there isn't sort of a different necessarily interpretation unless you already know about what the Three of Wands might mean in tarot and the symbolism and that kind of thing. And, one way to do that is to just look at the image of the card and what you see, what vibes you get, that kind of thing, to see like what am I, right, what is this card trying to tell me? So if I look at this card, it has like three really tall wands, almost like a staff, like Gandalf has or whatever. And there's like a person in the middle with arms outstretched, and then the wands and also the person are like have long shadows behind them. And then there's sort of this like, I don't know, there's some like extra colors in the image. So there's like green sort of near the bottom, and like an orangey yellow tint to the top. And then there's like this purple something. It almost looks like a bowl, or like a very shallow plate, or like bowl you would maybe use for like salad or something. So when I'm looking at this, it's sort of, right, like if we think about preparation, threes are right earlier on in like the journey. If aces are the beginning and tens or kings are the end, threes are pretty early on. Fives are often the sort of tipping point card and can sometimes be like a challenging, or like something, challenging or sort of like something going wrong, or just being at like a push point. So this is sort of like I'm getting like, oh, there's like some optimism. Oh, there's some like looking forward because again, like this person, they're like their back is to me as I look at the card. And so they're sort of looking out into something else. Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of go from there. And like I said, the questions on this were what no longer makes you happy, on what are you focusing too much, and what should you be paying more attention to. Okay, so let's get into our fourth card, our final card here. So what we're thinking about is possible advice and outcomes. So again, we had our theme, we had maybe new places where we can grow, we have some potential challenges or struggles coming up, and then we have some advice or outcomes, right, that might be related to those aspects of growth or challenges. So I pulled the Four of Spirals, and like I said earlier, spirals are like pentacles in this deck. If we think about like more natural depictions of pentacles or the earth energy of pentacles, spirals are things that occur naturally, like the Fibonacci number, and you think like a snail shell or stuff like that. Those are all spirals. And so what's depicted on this card is like a curvy snake, and then there's like a bunch of spirals. Like there's one in the snake's mouth, there's one like attached to the snake's tail, and then there's sort of one that's like the snake looks like they're on top of, and one that the snake sort of looks like it's like undulating around, which is interesting. And I would say the snake looks like a little menacing. It's got the like diamond shaped head, which generally like more venomous snakes do, like rattlesnakes or like cobra type snakes. And it says the like word underneath it at the bottom says miser or holding too tightly. And again, it sort of looks like the snake is holding on very tightly to things. And if you think of like a snake coiling, hopefully you all are okay with the snakes. I'm a little about snakes. So sometimes thinking about them gives me, I don't know, the willies, but like they do, right? They coil around things. They basically their whole body is like a long muscle, so they can like move themselves very freely and easily, right? They can wrap around your arm or a tree. So think about them holding on tightly in that way. So for my advice or outcomes, it says, what patterns keep occurring in your life? What would you want your 15-year-old self to know? And what is stagnant in your life? How might you re-energize it? Okay, so I'm going to take a little time and do some journaling on that as well. And you can always look at all of your cards together. So right now I'm looking at the back of my cards, but the back of mine have the questions on them. So I see stuff about growth, boundaries, self-care, sort of like burnout or things that I should focus on. And then also this, like, what am I holding on tightly to, right? What are stories I'm telling myself or patterns that I keep maybe falling into or like that keep reoccurring? And sort of, right, how do I decide, like, what happens when you want to let those go or when those aren't serving you anymore? So that's sort of what I'm looking at for my month of April ahead. So links for the tarot decks will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.